Hey everyone, my name is Lyle Holgate. I'm the Director of Strategic Alliances for EPAM and wanted to welcome you to today's webinar, Phy-Gital Retailing, which is featuring Canadian Tire. Before I go and introduce our first speaker, I'd like to remind you of a couple things. One, that you're on mute, but second, which you already know, but second, you can submit questions throughout the presentation in the questions box, and we'll be addressing those questions at the end of our presentation. Also, up in what is termed the webinar housekeeping ribbon, there's a menu option there for view. You could put things on full screen so that you can get all of the action. With that, I'd like to introduce our first speaker today. His name is Michael Klein. He's the Director of Industry Strategy and Marketing for Adobe. Michael?
Thank you, Lyle, and good morning, everybody. We're very excited to present today's webinar, and I'm sure over the next 45 minutes you're going to find this to be a very engaging and informative session. Many of you have been working diligently to meet customer expectations as the explosion of touch points continues, and no matter if you call it omni-channel, multi-channel, integrated retail, or just business as usual, everyone is trying to blend the physical and the digital, especially in the multi-channel brick-and-mortar world. We even hear of pure plays like Amazon opening up physical locations in New York City within the next couple of weeks. You're probably also aware that while e-commerce sales still represent less than 20% of total retail revenue, we know that digital programs influence as much as 50% of total retail revenue. We actually work with some customers who have reported as much as 70% of their overall retail revenue being influenced by their digital activities, web, mobile, in-store kiosks, and different digital programs across the landscape. I'm especially interested in this webinar as we've been working with Canadian Tire for the past couple of years and really find their approach has been very innovative and somewhat practical and pragmatic, and that this webinar is not just about technology for technology's sake, but featuring technology in a very customer-centric way, taking that pragmatic approach to executing a digital program for a cross-channel retailer, or as we're calling it, or as Canadian Tire calls it, Phy-Gital Retailing. So again, please listen carefully to today's speakers, and I promise you will leave with a very fresh perspective on not only how to put the platforms and the processes in place, but how to look at your organization as you move forward. Today, we're joined by Rex Lee, who's the Vice President of Digital Solutions, and Warren Cable, who's the Vice President of Digital for Canadian Tire. Now, I first need to clarify, because I needed to learn this a couple of years ago, that Canadian Tire is much more than just a tire store. Canadian Tire is a large corporation, which is a family of businesses that encompasses retail, financial services, and real estate. Their core banner, their primary banner, Canadian Tire, was founded in 1922 and merchandises products across a variety of categories such as living, playing, home improvement, automotive, and seasonal categories. In addition to the Canadian Tire brand, they have a large retail division that includes Marks, which is a leading casual and industrial wear retailer, as well as the FGL Sports brands, which include Sport Check, Sports Expert, Pro Hockey Life, and Atmosphere. Across all of these brands, they have 1,700 locations across Canada from coast to coast. And with that, over 90% of the population lives within 15 minutes of a Canadian Tire store, which you're going to hear is actually plays a very big part and role in their overall digital strategy. They remain one of Canada's most recognized and trusted brands, and the place that Canadians turn to every day more than 250 million times each year. So without any further ado, I'd like to welcome Rex Lee, VP of Digital Solutions for Canadian Tire.
That's great. Thanks for that introduction, Michael. It's Rex speaking. As Michael indicated, I am the Vice President for Digital Technology Solutions at Canadian Tire, and that incorporates all of our digital components. And we break digital down into three areas. It includes all of our web experience pieces. It includes all of the e-commerce components, and of course mobile, which is a core part. I'm also joined here with Warren Cable.
Hello, everybody. Thanks for joining. Warren Cable, VP of Digital at Canadian Tire. I really oversee things as a complement to Rex's portfolio by overseeing the strategy on the business side for all things digital, and that includes e-commerce and all of our sites, mobile and all of our apps, digital marketing and customer engagement. That includes things like search, social media, that kind of activity, as well as in-store digital and the creation and dissemination of digital content. So, Rex?
Great. You know, I was recently talking to an analyst who had asked me for my official title, so I told him, you know, VP Digital Technology Solutions, and he said to me, Rex, isn't all technology digital? And I thought it was a really interesting question, something that really made me reflect. And so today, we're going to talk about what digital means to Canadian Tire, why it's absolutely critical to the future of our success, and you know, I would argue for many of you as well, the future of your success, as well as the way we're going about building our roadmap and how we're using a variety of different frameworks to create that roadmap to move forward. I'm going to start off by talking about what digital isn't. Digital is not about the latest gizmo and gadget. It's not about the newest tablet or smart device or electronic shelf label or integrated point-of-sale system. Nor is it about following all the latest trends and the hype cycles and the waves and so forth and so on. And thankfully it's not, because if that's all it was, both Warren and myself would probably be looking for new jobs.
It's pretty boring.
It would be. And you know, the reality is we have some big competitors, and they've got deep, deep pockets. And if they can buy the same equipment, the same technology that we can buy. At Canadian Tire, we think of digital as the pragmatic application of technology to enhance the customer experience. And we want to do that in a very differentiated way, ways that our competitors would either choose not to do or are unable to do. So I'm going to give you a quick story of, you know, what does pragmatic mean? And this isn't actually Canadian Tire, but I think it illustrates the point. And then we'll talk about some very specific things Canadian Tire is doing. This is a picture of me in my barbershop. And this is Henry's. Henry's been a barber for almost 70 years in my neighborhood. Henry's not what I would call the most tech-savvy of individuals. If you take a look on the left-hand side of the screen there's a device in the upper left, which I know my kids wouldn't recognize. It is a rotary phone. And just because he's not up to date on the latest technology, he wasn't worried about his iPhone 6 Plus bending or being able to fit into his pants pocket, doesn't mean he's not pragmatic, and doesn't mean he's not customer focused or innovative. In the upper right-hand side, he's got one of these really cool backwards clocks, because when you're wearing one of these cool aprons and you need to figure out what time it is, it's kind of hard to look at your watch or your phone, and looking at a clock, it's backwards. And so he just solved it. It's just very pragmatic, very simple. But what I really want to focus your attention on is this piece of paper stuck on the middle of his mirror. It says WhatsApp. You see, Henry's solved a problem that I know I have and many of his other customers have. And that's that when it's time for me to get my hair cut, I take a stroll down to the barber shop. Others might have to drive. And as I get close to the barber shop, I start to pray. I start to pray that, oh, I really hope there's nobody else in line. I hope there's only a couple of people. The reality is, though, if I get there and there's like 8 people in the barber shop, I'm going to say to Henry, you know, I'm going to come back when you're a little less busy. I have no clue when Henry is going to be less busy. And Henry solved that. He's taken WhatsApp, and you're probably familiar with WhatsApp. It was recently acquired by Facebook for a very large sum of money. It's an instant messaging capability. It allows you to give status updates, and that's exactly what Henry does. Henry provides status updates. He looks around and he says, you know what, there's nobody here, 0 wait time. Or there's a couple of people here, they've got longer hair, it's going to be an hour, or it's going to be 2 hours, or I'm going to be on vacation. So now, when I look at my phone, getting ready for a haircut, I know, okay, you know what, it's a long wait, I'm going to wait. Or there's no wait time, perfect time for me to come. I know people have told me, Rex, you don't get it. People actually go to the barber shop to escape having to do all those household chores. So The app can work that way as well. Great 4-hour wait time. I'm going to be back as soon as I get back from the barber site. Now, it's a good thing that Henry's not a technologist, as I would consider myself and probably several of you as well, because it's so easy to over-engineer a solution, especially in the digital world. I could have looked at the same situation and said, you know what, all I need to do is put some digital cameras in there with some facial recognition, be able to identify the total number of people within that barber shop, hook that up into a back-end server, push that notification out to a mobile device. I could have used Bluetooth beacon technology, could have used sensors embedded into the seats. And why not? Put some big data analytics in there, show some heat mapping, trending, minute over minute, day over day, hour over hour. Could have put it up in the cloud. All these things are doable, and it's so easy to get caught up in the technology. So thankfully, Henry has been very pragmatic, and his focus is really about cutting hair. So this isn't something that we would do at Canadian Tire, but I think it illustrates the point of being pragmatic and doing things which make sense to you. I'm going to hand it off to Warren, and he's going to talk about why digital is so crucial to Canadian Tire and the case for digital.
So let's take a look quickly at, as Rex said, why digital is so important to us here at Canadian Tire. And CASE being an acronym for Connect, Accelerate, Simplify, and Engage. And so connect, connecting the data dots, developing a deeper and richer understanding of our customers, products and services that we deliver to them. Accelerates the time to value and benefit to our customers. S, simplifies the lives of our customers. That's really what we're in the business of doing, is making their lives simpler. When they've got an issue or a problem, a project they need to deal with, our role is to make that simpler. And not just our customers, but also our employees and other stakeholders. And lastly, E, engaging our customers in ways that we haven't been able to in the past. And customers expect to be engaged in those ways now. So let's take a look quickly at C, at connecting. And for many of you, in Canada, you know about Canadian Tire Money and the fact that we've been in the loyalty game now for 50, 60 years, but in a very different way with what's been known as colloquially as Canada's second currency, physical Canadian Tire Money that we would give out at till as a reward for customers' loyalty. And customers would collect hundreds and thousands of dollars of this and save it up to make a big purchase, etc. But through that program, we actually knew nothing about our customers. You didn't have to register for the program. You didn't have to transfer any data to us at all. You just took the money and stick it in a drawer or stuck it in the glove compartment of your car. And so it needed to evolve big time. So, again, hugely successful. The heritage, part of the Canadian fabric. It's iconic. I mean, it's so iconic that we've seen recently a hockey game. The arena started to take Canadian Tire Money at par for merchandise and food and beverages and things like that. So it's really played its part in the history of Canada. But again, no data. So at the end of October, on October 28th, actually, we launched the digital complement to our physical Canadian Tire loyalty program, an app-based program that's really simplified things for our customers. They don't have to worry about where they left those piles of Canadian Tire Money. It's all in their app, but also starts to provide us with data and usable data. So that data allows us to move from a simple, consistent experience to an enhanced experience for our customers, whereby no matter where they are, they've got their phone with them, they know what their balance is, they can redeem it instantly. Again, don't have to try and remember where they put that pile of money. And with every interaction, we're learning a little bit more about our customers, their habits, and how we can improve that experience. And this, eventually what this really does is creates a faster path to purchase for our customers, makes their lives easier. We don't waste their time because we're focusing on things that are most relevant to them. We're focusing across the channels that make the most sense, and we're doing it, potentially before they even realize we're doing it. So 2 weeks into the program, results are extremely encouraging to date. Best thing we could ever do. Took us a long time to get there, but we're really happy that we did. In terms of A, in case. So accelerate. So how do we accelerate time to outcome, time to value, time to market? And so with the right foundation, digital is starting to allow us to move, way faster than we ever did. Not quite at the speed of light, but close enough. And has the ability for us to, kind of remove any sort of manual intervention in a lot of cases and just make the information and experience flow so much better. And, in a lot of cases, the goal is to provide that seamless integration that allows us to respond to customers in real time, regardless of where they are, or when it is, quite frankly. So, great example of this is our re-entry into the e-commerce world. Just to give you a little bit of history, we had full-blown e-commerce offering, which we suspended back in the late, 2008, 2009, and jumped back in this year with a different model, though, one that seemed to make more sense for us as a corporation and more sense for our customers. As Michael mentioned in the introduction, 90% of Canadians live within a 10 or 15-minute drive of a Canadian Tire store, which means we have a ton of forward deployed inventory close to home when customers need it most. And a significant amount of our inventory and our products are big, bulky cube, things like barbecues, patio sets, backyard trampolines, tires, power tools, table saws, that sort of stuff. So stuff that you couldn't actually ship all that easily, and things that, given the needs of our customers, they need to, in many cases, solve an issue immediately. Or they have an immediate need. For example, it's winter. It snowed in a lot of North America over the last couple of days. If you're in Buffalo, you got 6 feet. I don't know how they're managing. But when that happens, you need salt, you need a shovel, you need a snowblower, and you need it right away. You don't need to wait a day or two for it to be ordered to get to your house. You need it now. When you need new brakes for your car, when you need to switch your snow tires over, when you need a new grill or element for your barbecue, you kind of need it now. So our model of buy online and pick up in store starts to address that convenience issue for customers, whereas they need it right away. They're within 10 minutes of a store. They want to know that when they get there, it's in stock and available for them to just pick up quickly, get back, solve their problem. So it's how we've chosen to address our re-entry into the e-commerce space in a way that makes the most sense for us as a corporation, takes advantage of the physical locations, marries that with the convenience of ordering online, but also delivers a convenient experience for a customer where within 10 minutes they've got the product ready to go. So next one, F. So how do we simplify life for our customers, for our employees, for our stakeholders? And when it's done properly, digital does a really good job of simplifying that. So let's use an example. And if when I go through it, it might sound like a bit of a no-brainer, kind of one of those duh. But we recently relaunched the product selector and finder for our wiper blades. Think about all the different models of cars, how many different wiper blades are available. Who knew there was a different one for the driver's side and the passenger side? There's rear ones, etc. So it can be a little bit daunting when you walk into an auto parts store and you see 50 feet runs of wiper blades, and you just want to replace the ones on your 2011 Venza. So in the old days, a year ago, you went to a book, hoped the page was still there, or looked for a customer service rep on the floor to help you find it. We've recently thrown some digital tablets into that aisle, though, to easily help a customer locate, through a series of simple questions, the right wiper blades at the right time for their car. And these have, I guess, been redeployed in store now over the last month, seeing amazing results in terms of engagement. Employees are using them as well, so it's simplifying not just the customer's life, but the employees' lives as well, and just making it much more seamless. And wiper blade sales have become a much easier proposition for customers as whether they want to do it themselves or have us do it for them. So, and then that, when you think about, how does that extend beyond a simple tablet experience? Well, picture, integration into the app whereby, a customer, before they leave their car in the parking lot, take the scan of their VIN number, which automatically recognizes the make, model, and year of their car. They walk in and, just show their app to a customer service rep and say, this is what I need. This is my car. This is exactly what I'm looking for, based on the VIN or other details around their car. So, a simple example of where we're making it easier.
We've done some really cool things on our Canadian Tire Innovations group as well, and we've extended the message that Warren has around simplifying wiper blades even further. So when you scan that VIN number and you use beacon type technology we use in an Arduino board to be able to create LEDs, what happens for a customer, and this is just in test, we actually haven't deployed this yet into production, customers just walk by that daunting wall of windshield wipers, and only those wipers that fit their car actually start to glow. And if you look at your app, we hook that up to product detail information, social reviews, and helpful how-to videos. Because when your wipers are gone and it's a snowstorm here in Canada, and you got to change them, you don't have time to sort of figure out and try to figure this stuff out. And if there's a video about how to take off the old wiper blade, put on a new wiper blade, and you're guaranteed that this is the right wiper blade, fantastic. And that can be applied to anything. So once we scan VIN numbers, whether it's filters or fuses, or
anything
whatever,
for your car.
anything
Absolutely.
for your car.
Absolutely. Lastly, in case, is how do we engage our customers? If any of you have the opportunity to be in Edmonton at West Edmonton Mall, I encourage you to go by the Sport Check location in West Edmonton Mall. It's the flagship sports store in our portfolio. I was out there last Monday. It's amazing in terms of how they've integrated, how we've integrated technology and digital experiences into the store. There's somewhere close to 400 different digital experiences in the store. The store's about 78,000 square feet, so it's pretty big for a Sport Check in our chain. But it's incredible to sit and watch the customers and how they engage. So we've been able to work with vendors like Nike and Adidas and Under Armour to kind of get the best and brightest of their ideas translated into store. But a customer can come in and instead of just okay, what's the right shoe for me? We've built out experiences, where they can professionally deliver things like gait analysis. So put you on a treadmill, film the way you're walking or running, analyze that. One of the guys I was with, his wife is a physiotherapist, and it's professional grade digital experiences that are helping to drive the customer engagement in those stores. So think about things like that. So gait analysis. We've got a television studio right in the middle of the store where once every 2 weeks the pre-game and post-game play-by-play announcers will do on-location broadcasts from the store. A massive digital shoe wall that's utilizing RF technology and those types of things. Driving simulators for golf, but also a really innovative putting experience where it'll actually analyze your stroke, and we've got CPGA professionals on site there who are delivering lessons and tips and tricks and that sort of stuff. And then in terms of community engagement, the store actually has a full-time community manager who manages the community aspects of the store. So they've really built a great relationship with local teams and associations, minor sports groups, so that kids actually want to take their parents into the store because their picture's up on the this massive community board behind the cash desks at Sport Check. So it's an amazing integration of sort of community and social technologies into the physical retail location. So whether it's local events, who scored the best goal, that kind of stuff. So it's not that types of experiences don't exist necessarily in the pure digital world. So at the intersection of physical and digital, you're able to create those bonds and experiences, and have the situation where kids are dragging their parents to Sport Check to see their photos. So, Rex, I think. Oh, sorry. Those are just a few examples of how we're leveraging digital across the enterprise with CASE. But that's what we're focused on. But where do you start, and how do you kind of identify those focal areas? How do you create that digital roadmap? So we've used a variety of frameworks to combine and create our roadmaps. And Rex and I will take you through some of those next, and I'll hand it over to Rex right now to start that off.
Great. So there's so much written these days around who's driving your digital strategy. Is it marketing? Is it IT? Is it technology? Is it someone else? From our perspective at Canadian Tire, it's almost an irrelevant question, because digital isn't so much about a group that's sort of driving on behalf of the organization. It is the organization. It's really a transformation that has to happen and impacts every part of the organization. In fact, Warren and I have offices seeing one another, right across from one another, and our teams are all co-located in agile-type rooms, working together on a variety of different things.
So we've completely integrated the business and the technology teams who manage digital.
Absolutely. And for us, that's foundational. So there are a variety of frameworks we've looked at, and we'll bring these things together, and we'll share that with you. We'll start off with the foundation. We started off a little bit with people. So maybe, Warren, you can comment a little bit about the people aspect, and I'll share some technology perspectives on this as well.
Yeah, I think the fact that we moved, it seems like a simple thing, but the fact that we actually moved our teams together sent a really important message, not just to our teams, but to the rest of the company, that we don't see our goals as being different at all, that we're fully engaged and kind of totally on the same path, sharing the same vision, enough that we actually wanted to co-locate the teams together. So, and that makes sure that we've got a dedicated group of people collaborating on a daily basis. It's not us and them. They're completely team-based. And it's not just our two groups, but digital really it encompasses the whole company. It's not something that we'll be successful at unless all areas of the company start to think about how it affects their, whether it's supply chain, whether it's human resources, whether it's our merchandising and marketing teams. Everybody's got to be engaged in the transformation.
It's one of the first experiences I had when I had joined Canadian Tire was I was asked to implement e-commerce. And what I quickly realized was that a lot of folks thought of e-commerce as a piece of technology, as some software.
It's not?
It's a little bit more than that. This is a full business capability that touches, as Warren said, every part of the organization. And so having dedicated people was absolutely critical to make this thing work. It wasn't something that you can just do on the backs of people who are already too busy working on a variety of other things, but you needed to have that dedication. You needed to have that integration across all parts of the business. From a technology perspective, we've really looked at tooling up our folks to ensure that we have full-stack developers, full-stack employees, people that have a broad knowledge across multi-domains, as well as deep technical expertise in certain areas. We hired a lot of experts. And many of our job descriptions are purposefully fairly loose because of the flexibility required, and we're charting into unknown waters. And so as we continue to iterate and grow ourselves, we're looking at different ways of evolving some of the functions. We have some functions that probably don't really exist anywhere that I don't think are correctly or it's very difficult for us to benchmark out there in industry, but it's what makes sense for us. And the speed and velocity by which we've had to move required us to work with various partners. EPAM has been a critical component of the work that we've been doing, leveraging their knowledge and expertise, and it was great to see that they had a very similar philosophy around people. So people is the first piece of the foundation. We'll talk about process and technology. So
process speaks to the fact that it's, this is a transformation not just within the digital and technology teams, but, really enterprise-wide. And, there's a lot of new thinking that has to go into the enterprise to really support this. Things like, done is better than perfect. A lot of organizations, spend a lot of time trying to get something perfect, and by the time you're ready to launch that, it's already too late and old, and something's taken over. So the idea of continuous incremental improvement and iterative development, it can be a bit of a stumbling block for organizations to get around, and starting to embrace the ideas around done is better than perfect. And that also comes into play when you're looking at this transformation where you're doing a lot of things for the first time, and there isn't necessarily a playbook that you can follow for a lot of, certainly in the innovation side of the world. So, you have to be prepared, and the organization has to be prepared to accept that you're going to make some mistakes, and not everything's going to go right. But through the kind of our enhanced data capabilities, we'll know when it's not right sooner, and do less of that. We'll know what's doing well and do more of that. So, from a process standpoint, it's really changing the mindset and getting everyone involved in that transformation so that we're being more data informed as opposed to data driven, so that we kind of set up for success from that standpoint.
From a technology perspective, it's great to hear the business talking about agile type concepts. I'm a big believer that the only way you can do digital is through agile. I know some would argue with me on that, but from my experience, because the speed of which things happen and change, and to fully take advantage of the technologies, you need to really think in an agile way, not only at the project level, but even beyond that from an ongoing operations perspective. So we've done some big transformation at Canadian Tire, moving away from sort of waterfall approaches to agile, and into, from an operations perspective, looking at DevOps and iterative development. And the concepts of fail fast, recover fast are very important for us. Making sure that we have the automation in place that allows us to move fairly quickly, to stand up environments, to test things, to validate and improve upon very quickly, has taken us a lot of time to do, but we've got a fairly good foundation now from a process perspective. And just as we've talked about, we're iterating and continue to enhance that as well. On a technology perspective, there's three core technologies from a digital perspective that we look at. And the first one would be our web experience management and content management capabilities. And the content management capabilities on the technology side has to do a variety of different things. I've talked about the importance of data. We've talked about the importance of experience, and how do you ensure that the experience for the customer is always going to be the optimal experience, whether you're on mobile device, whether you're on a desktop, whether you're in a store. All that content needs to be consistent and it needs to perform extremely well. And so having the right platform in place ensures that that content, from creation to deployment and consumption, even into back-end analytics and testing, have to be there. And I can't predict the future, not very well anyways.
You could.
Yeah, me too. And so the only thing I know is that we got to build our technologies on flexible architecture and flexible systems. Without that, it becomes really much a hope and pray type strategy, which we're not in the game of doing. On the content side, we've gone with the Adobe Experience Management capabilities, looking at CQ5 along with the digital asset management and various other components, test and target, search and promote, social recommendations as examples. From an e-commerce perspective, similar kind of concepts around how do we pick something which is going to be extremely flexible. It allows us to basically, wherever there's a product, we want to be able to allow customers to buy it.
Yep.
And so
on whatever platform, whatever they want.
That's right. Whether they're in store, because commerce isn't just online or mobile device, even if they're on a fishing boat. We would love to be able to provide an opportunity for you to purchase things. And so having high flexibility was paramount for us on an e-commerce perspective. So Hybris and the Spring Framework and how it's designed with being built from the ground up made a lot of sense for our situation. And maybe the third platform it's not so much a platform as a series of standards. It's really towards that concept of moving towards open standards, allowing that flexibility, avoiding lock-in where possible, and extra complexity into the environment. So wherever we can from a mobile perspective, we're leveraging HTML5 and hybrid type technologies. If you were to talk to me maybe 2-3 years ago, I probably would have said something a little bit different, but wow, the HTML5 growth and maturity is really accelerated, and so we've seen a lot more development and use of HTML5, and we will continue as well. It's not perfect, and hence we have a hybrid environment where we're leveraging the best of both worlds, HTML5 as well as native code from a perspective. Warren, you have some thoughts around business perspective on technology?
From a business standpoint, I hate the word empowered, but it's kind of what we want to be able to do is put the right tools in the hands of the people who need to action them on a daily basis, so that we're not having to go to IT to make a content change or something that should be easily managed by the digital business team. So in the spirit of give a man a fish, he eats for a day, teach a man to fish, he eats forever. We've kind of gone down that road so that we want to put the right tools in the hands of the right people at the right time, so that they can action those things themselves. So without having to go create an SOW and all that kind of stuff. So fairly simple goal, but one that can often be somewhat difficult to create.
So over the last couple of years, we've spent a significant amount of effort making sure we pick the right platforms. It's by no means all the technology we have. There's actually many, many other technologies, but those are sort of the core foundational technologies. And it's not technologies alone. We've made major process changes across the organization within our team and broader. And we've really built up our team, both within our organization and the partners that we have to move forward. So having a foundation is fantastic. What are you going to do with it? And at the very beginning, we talked about the fact that digital is not so much about technology. It's really about customer. And if you believe that digital is about customer, there's 3 things you need to do. Number 1, you need to understand the customer. And the discussion that Warren had around loyalty and the importance that digital gives us in terms of having deeper, richer understanding of the customer is absolutely critical. We can leverage that in various statistical models, whether it's in real-time models or for segmentation purposes. We can understand not just our customers, but the interrelationship between our customers, our stores, our products, our service, so forth and so on. And the more we understand our customers, the better we can optimize every interaction that we have. And the goal here is not just to ensure that we've got a consistent interaction with our customers, but the fact that you've had multiple touch points with Canadian Tire means that we want to give you a better experience. We want to make sure that what we're doing makes sense to you and is in a means and channel that is really your preference. So if you're on the website or you get an email with our flyer and you click through and you start looking at a variety of different products, maybe it's fishing as an example, then when you come into the store, the fact that I know that, how do I enhance that experience? How do I do that through your mobile phone or through a kiosk or through an employee device to assist that customer? And how do I know that it's relevant to you, that you're a bass fisherman and that you've been looking at this big boat? We want to be able to empower that and make sure that we have right, relevant, timely information for you. Having that core foundation around content, around e-commerce and mobile allows us to have that flexibility. And ultimately, through that optimized interaction, we're looking to drive transaction. Commerce, not just e-commerce, but commerce within stores. Because when you do this right, it actually demonstrates our ability to provide commerce and other opportunities across multiple channels. And it's not just about commerce in the sale of things. It could also be transactions related to equity and brand equity around our services, around subscriptions. We happen to have our own financial services group as well, and we actually have our own payment gateway that we've embedded into our e-commerce. And so we're looking at how do these things all come together. And if you follow through this framework, you understand, you interact, you transact, which creates better understanding of what works and what doesn't, which allows us to do this upward spiral of creating a very detailed understanding of our customers so that we can service them in the optimal way.
And as we start to focus on the customer in that journey, and we look at the customer journey, we think of it in really three stages. First of all, the pre-shop opportunity, the shop opportunity, and the post-shop opportunity. And we treat them all, all very differently. In the world of pre-shop, it's about, what's the issue I have at hand? What's the need I'm trying to fill? So things like search are of prime importance. We're spending a lot of time managing our metadata, improving all of the infrastructure required to get somebody to a correct search or suggestion faster and more accurately. We're trying to spend a lot of time now on how do you manage discovery across a product catalog that consists of tens of thousands of SKUs. It's funny, when I walk through a store, spend time, I never leave without finding a product that I didn't know we carried. I was like, wow, I had no idea. That's a cool product. I had no idea we carried it, because we carry, tens of thousands of different SKUs across, a variety of lines of business. That's a lot harder to do in our current digital offering, but it's one that we want to try and replicate as we move forward. At the same time, presenting the right information at the right time, on the right device, to the right customer. So focusing more on context versus just the product, and moving away from just product-focused activities to more project or program-based. So, and all of these things need to align with our branding in terms of understanding Canadians better and understanding life in Canada better than anybody else. On the shop side, it's really about making it as simple as possible. And to Rex's point, that's whether it's in-store, whether it's online, whether it's on a tablet or on your phone, whether it's an assisted sale in-store or an unassisted sale in-store. It really doesn't matter. We just want to be there with a consistent experience, with a consistent look and feel, and with as easy and simple a process as possible. And in the post-shop world, this is where we have a chance to really create community around the products and services that we deliver. We've seen some interesting social discussion and community arise around some of we have a program called Tested for Life in Canada, where we engage customers to test out products and report back. So we took a tent, for example, and to prove how waterproof it was, we actually stuck it on the back of a truck and took it through a car wash a bunch of times. And the amount of community and engagement that was created around that particular activity, where we got the people who actually drove the truck and were sitting inside the tent to talk about how they stay dry. We built a truck out of ice to demonstrate kind of the strength of our batteries in colder climates. And again, we're able to create immense community around that, just that kind of cool and wow factor, and had real people actually talking about how that worked. So this is where we utilize all those social channels. And also in the post-shop world, have a chance to talk to you about replenishment and an ongoing shopping experience too. So post-shop, can also become shop again fairly quickly. In the right world, whether it's oil for your car, when you last bought it and put it in, hey, it's probably time to change it, for example. And again, through the advent of our loyalty data, we have that opportunity to really build and create that relationship with our customers across all of our brands.
So these three frameworks that we've talked about sort of work together. The one item that we haven't yet talked about, actually we have throughout the whole journey, but we'll call it out specifically, is what we refer to as the physical-digital continuum and the concept of Phy-Gital. Warren can probably talk a little bit about the benefits of having a very Phy-Gital approach.
For sure. So for us, it's about again taking advantage of the store network. It's about taking advantage of the extreme convenience that delivers to a customer. We've got inventory that's forward deployed in every neighborhood around the country. So we take advantage of that. We've got 1,700 locations across the country. It's a massive network of stores. It allows for that instant gratification. It allows for that convenience. When I've got an issue that I need solved, boom, I can do it right away, and I know it's going to be at the store when it's there. Also, for a lot of things, you want to be able to see and touch it. We recently built out a showroom store off of one of our urban locations where it's strictly there to give you a chance to walk in, look at things like patio furniture, barbecues, large items that you just can't display properly in a typical physical store. Whereas in this case, we've actually made it a lot easier to test, to try out, to compare, and then implemented sort of digital technology to help you make the purchase and the pickup process much simpler. And it also, our Canadian Tire flagship stores are all dealer-owned, so it's like a franchise operation, and so they're really part of the community. And in many cases, especially in a lot of our rural locations, we're kind of the option, and we're kind of the center of commercial activity in a lot of these towns. And people just expect us to have everything, to be able to solve every problem. And if we don't have it, we'll get it for you right away. That's actually an interesting feature that we've recently launched on our site is if we don't have it in stock, we've actually opened up the inventory in our DCs across the country to allow a customer then to order that to their local store. So a small rural store might only carry a percentage of our assortment, but has the ability now through the digital channels to actually order anything that they want into that store that's in our corporate assortment. So it gives you a good sense of where kind of that physical digital intersection is in the case of Canadian Tire.
Yeah, it's funny because both Warren and I have digital in our names, and so often people think of it as an either or. It's either you're digital or you're bricks and mortar, you're digital or you're analog, and the reality is it is a continuum. And when you can bring the best of both worlds, all the things that Warren talked about, and then the case for digital, you bring those things together, it, for us, can create a very strong competitive differentiator. So we've talked about that Phy-Gital space within context, and we talked about the three various frameworks that we have. If I were to quickly summarize some of the key points that we mentioned here, the definition for digital, we talk about digital as being the pragmatic application of technology to enhance that customer experience, and we look to do this in a very differentiated way. Digital is crucial for our organization, and I suspect if you're listening to this webinar, for your organization as well. It's crucial for us because it connects the data dots, it accelerates our time to value, it simplifies the experience, it engages our customers and other stakeholders. It requires a very strong digital foundation, and we look at it from a people, process, technology perspective. It's not a silo, it's organizational. The process needs to be iterative, it needs to be agile, it needs to be flexible, as does the technology platforms, whether it's e-commerce, whether it's your content management, or whether it's your mobile capabilities.
And the people need to be flexible. We
Absolutely.
need to be, we need to be thinking about things differently. We need to be open to doing things differently than we have done in the past, and that's not always easy for an enterprise like ours. It's 100 years old, so there's a lot of transformation that's happening within the enterprise, to embrace this. So.
Absolutely.
And it starts at the top.
It does, with the customer right in the center.
Yeah.
And so looking at the digital framework, understanding, and how do I understand my customer better for every touch point that I have? How do I leverage that understanding to drive an optimized interaction, not just consistent but enhanced at every touch point? And then ultimately, how do I translate that into a variety of different transactions right across the customer journey? Well before the customer has even thought they're going to buy something, how do we inspire them? How are we relevant to them? How do we provide context towards what they need to do for life in Canada? Simplify that shopping experience and not just leave them after they've purchased the thing. How do we stay with them, and how do we continue to build that relationship, whether that's in the physical world or whether it's in the digital world or somewhere in between. So based on that, that was the material. It was a very quick overview of some of the things that we're doing. I'm pretty excited. I think Warren and I talked about who's got the better job.
We love coming to work every day.
It is a lot of fun, and we're just really keen on sort of seeing what's next and how we move that forward. So on that, I'll hand it back over to Lyle, and I'll let Lyle wrap it up.
Thanks very much. And on behalf of the folks on the phone, on behalf of Adobe, SAP Hybris, and EPAM, really thanks for sharing the time, and thanks for sharing that insight. And wanted to point out to everybody collectively that this insight was started, or the journey that led to this insight was started way back in 2012, which in digital years, I guess, is quite a long time ago, when Rex and Warren and many others at Canadian Tire, including their CTO, Eugene Roman, really brought Adobe, SAP Hybris, and EPAM together to begin work on this journey. And little did we know, and we had very little inkling of the change that we would help Canadian Tire create. But as Warren said with his message, and my grandfather Warren had a different take on it, he said, don't let perfect get in the way of good enough. This journey's not over. It's clearly an approach or methodology, and really, as you heard about the physical organizational alignment across the halls and embedded with each other, the environment to create and sustain sustainable competitiveness, which is the golden goal for every business. So the result of all of this effort began so long ago in 2012 is that it's working. Canadian Tire is obviously ultra competitive, but it's also seen as a standard in the industry for creating and delivering a compelling user experience across any channel. And some of our questions have to do with multi-channel too, Rex and Warren. But just as the conversation between Canadian Tire, Adobe, SAP Hybris, and EPAM is only just starting and continuing. Matter of fact, I hear it on good information that Rex and Warren had to step out of a high-level meeting about the launching of a series of innovations that they're putting back into the system with all of technology and EPAM. So thanks for stepping out, but we look forward to starting that conversation with each of you on the telephone. So using that metaphor as a leap, I'd like to try to start taking a few questions. And again, using the webinar housekeeping ribbon on the right side, just type some questions in there, and that'll get to me. And also, you see the contacts here, because we don't believe the conversation is over today. The conversation is going to continue, and we'd love to hear from you. But Rex and Warren, there's a couple of questions that really were kind of neat and caught me a little off guard. But great presentation, good ideas around your customer focus. But internally, how did you blend the operational, technological, and social concepts within your organization together so this could be a success?
Well, I can start off, and then I'll let Warren sort of chime in as well. It wasn't easy. There were fundamental changes that had to happen, and once people understood the sense of urgency around digital and how it will completely transform retail as a whole, people started to rally behind this right across the organization. I talked about my experience with e-commerce and people thinking it as a piece of software, something you can do, and then realizing, oh my, this is much, much bigger than we'd originally understood. Once that realization happens, then people get to the, well, how do I move it forward? Co-location, bringing people together.
It really made a big statement in the company when we decided to do that.
Yeah, the way we work on a day-to-day basis as well. So it's not just bringing people together and putting offices side by side, but they're all in a single room working on a common problem for the best interest of the organization as a whole. That forces us to sort of come together and be aligned. That messaging, having evangelists, both Warren and myself are constantly talking, not just to folks like you on the webinar here, but internally to various groups. So what is digital? Why does this impact me? Give you an example outside of technology or marketing, but even on the finance side, as we started to look at things like iterative development. And what does that mean to how do I account for this asset? Is it capital or is it expense? Well, it's an interesting question now, right? And so it has a really direct, so we have to explain digital and how we do things differently right across the organization. And it is a very consuming role, and it doesn't really end.
Yeah,
Warren, you have some comments?
We spend a lot of time, on Digital 101 with our marketing colleagues on the brand side, with our merchandising colleagues, talking to the different groups about, how they can work with their vendors and, kind of embracing digital moving forward. We've even gone as far as we do some of our testing and optimizing, actually bringing our finance team into those projects at the very beginning, just so they understand them. And we're finding them, they're much more engaged in kind of our process, but they become evangelists too. When someone says, "Hey, what was that, line item there?" It's a lot nicer when the finance guy can say, "Oh, I know what that is," and boom, it's done. And so again, it's a lot of work, and it's a job that never ends.
Yeah.
But we spend a lot of time talking digital and helping people understand how they can be part of that transformation.
Maybe one last point that I'll make is that if anybody tells you this is how you do it, run away, because there is no one single magic formula.
You better do what's right for you. You'll know what's right for your organization.
So I find that the use of frameworks as opposed to absolutes allows us that flexibility to mold a roadmap which is tailored to our organization and where we want to go. And I would suggest that for yourself as well. Be very cautious of the, this is how to do it, and this is quote unquote best practice, because it's still being charted.
Yeah.
Thanks, guys. We're almost at the top of the hour, so I'm going to combine a couple of questions which had to do with measuring return on investment, and but specifically the KPIs for measuring success in your engagement. Do you have anything specific to say about that? And one of the folks asking the question was specific to Sport Check. What is the objective, and how are you measuring return?
The two main ones that we, are the lens that we use in most cases on the business side are sales and customer engagement. So, we expect everything to have a sales return. We expect everything to have a higher engagement for our customers. So.
Yeah, we can't, for obvious, we can't go into specifics around some of the metrics, but yeah, there's both macro level measures of success and micro level measures of success. Even on the day-to-day website and how we do our testing and validation, we can tell with statistical significance the effectiveness of our approach on changing certain things. And it really helps combat the design by committee syndrome, where because it's a website, everyone has been on a website, everyone knows how to design a website and how it should look.
Everyone's got an opinion.
Everyone's got an opinion. So data really helps sort of break through that, and we can regardless of who comes up with that great idea, we can show the data that says, you know what, that works, or you know what, it doesn't work, and we've got the data to prove it.
Yeah, we're not implementing technology to projects just because we think they're cool. We're doing it because we think it's going to enhance the customer experience. It's going to result in higher engagement, whether it's in store or on the site, which ultimately leads to higher sales.
Yeah.
All right, folks. Thanks very much. What I'll do is there's several other questions. A question about ensuring physical availability of goods at the point of sale in each of your 1,700 locations, and also kind of managing and balancing the individual drivers and desires of the unique brands that make up Canadian Tire. But I think what we'll do is we'll take these and any other questions that you pose to any of the folks that are currently displayed on your screen, and we'll build a response and send it out to each of the folks that attended today. And so it isn't static. Just like the conversation or journey with Canadian Tire isn't going to stop, the conversation associated with you and your questions around this webinar is not going to stop. Please keep them coming, and we will do our best to turn them around rapidly. Now I'd like to thank Rex and Warren once again, and not to leave out Michael Klein from Adobe. Thank you all very much, gentlemen. Really appreciate it. And everyone, have a great day.
Thank you very much.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Take care.